You're live.
Colleagues, we are back to resume the Criminal Law Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee. We are continuing work on House Bill 234. This is Delegate Williams' bill on service animals. We were in the middle of taking a look at her proposed amendments when some folks had a number of questions, and so I'd like to see if we are further along and able to start making some decisions. So I know Delegate Williams had some conversations. Delegate Williams, do you have any updates for us about what you're proposing?
Yes. Oh, I am unmuted. Okay. Yes. So I was hearing the concerns from the committee earlier today. And so I hear, like, I guess there's a desire for consistency because with B1 and B2, I think right now it says intentional or recklessness versus part B2, which has willful and maliciousness. And I hear those concerns. I think that would be fine to have the consistency across the board in terms of the willfulness and maliciousness. I'm willing to, amend that. I don't know if we can get something drafted, but definitely in time for a committee vote with regards to that standard there in the bill. Also, too, I think there was some concern. I know at the last hearing last time, there was some concern about just if an animal were to get loose, what that would do. Obviously, that negligence is a lower standard, and so that's not something that would necessarily come into play here in this situation. But most of the situations that have been seen in other parts of the country are situations where it is an animal that is unfortunately attacking another animal. And I just want the committee to just think of this as this animal is not just an animal. This really animal is like an extension of the person. If I'm blind and I cannot maneuver on my own, this animal is like the equivalent of saying, you're going to cut off my arm and expect me to continue to move about in my life in a normal fashion, or you're going to cut off my leg and expect me to continue to move about in a similar fashion. So I just would like that, for the committee to consider that. We do have Melissa here from the Seeing Eye Dog Incorporation. They are one of the national organizations that train these seeing eye dogs, and I'm sure she can kind of speak a little bit better than I can as a member of the community about the necessity of these animals and why it is so important for really a person to be able to live their life the way an able-bodied person would be able to live their life. So Melissa, I don't know if you want to add anything to what I've just said.
Yes, thank you. I believe I'm unmuted. If I'm not, please let me know, but I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And I would just say, to echo what Delegate Williams has said, I work with a seeing eye dog. I am blind, and if I were to be walking down the sidewalk and another dog were to attack my working dog, and I've experienced a near miss with that at least once, then a couple of things happen. Number one, my dog is injured, potentially. I may be in a situation where I maybe do or do not have witnesses other than the owner of the attacking dog. So I'm then in a situation, I'm blind, I'm trying to figure out what's the best way without vision to assess my dog's injuries, so that we can determine how to take care of that, call the police, get somewhere where those injuries can be taken care of once we've done that. Whether or not I find myself in the street at risk of being hit by a car because my orientation in space is compromised by the fact that my dog, understandably, whose life is threatened, is trying to get away from the attacking dog. And then my life is potentially in jeopardy. And then the issue that Delegate Williams raised about this isn't just a dog. I can't go tomorrow and pick up another dog. This is a dog that not only has over $70,000 worth of training gone into this dog, not only have I taken several weeks of my life away from my job and my other life responsibilities to go train and work with and learn how to bond with and work with this dog, but not only are we dealing with that, but this dog is an extension of me. My dog Luna, my yellow lab, seeing eye dog, we've worked together for 4 years. She is an extension of me. She is my eyes. She helps me get safely around obstacles, across streets. And without her, that would be extremely difficult. So were that to happen, not only do I have a very injured dog, I'm dealing with the jeopardy of that partnership and then having to start all over again. And then of course, deal with my own emotional damage and potential injury. So these are things I would respectfully ask the committee to consider. And I will also say quickly, because I know time is short, that these are not usually situations where someone sets their dog deliberately on a service animal. These are situations where someone perhaps is distracted or does not realize the full potential of their dog. Maybe their dog is on a long leash. Perhaps the person's distracted by a phone or other stimuli in their environment. Maybe they did put the dog in the yard and either are unaware that there's a hole in their fence, or maybe they're not particularly concerned about it because they haven't thought through these implications. They may or may not be home when my dog and I are attacked in those circumstances. If they are, they may call their dog back and not be successful before serious injuries occur. I would direct the committee to a resource that that I know is worth taking a look at, which is on our website, seeingeye.org/protect. That's Seeing Eye, so SEEINGEYE.org/protect. And on that page, you will find a wealth of information about dog attacks and their impact on guide dogs. We conducted a survey in 2011 about this, and a more recent survey.
Can I actually stop you for a second, if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
Just so you understand the flow of these, this is a work session, so we don't redo the hearing on the bill. And I just want to clarify, we totally agree on the importance of the service animals and them being integral to, I don't want to speak for the rest of the committee, but I think we agree on that aspect of it and get that they're an important extension of people's lives. I guess what we're trying to get at is, what's the standard in order to bring jail to the behavior? And we sort of have in the bill several questions that I want to draw the committee's attention to. I made a little table that I've put in front of you that is, and the sponsor, anyone can stop me if they think I've done this wrong, but I've taken the reprint that the sponsor gave us and tried to parse out what penalties come with what behaviors based on what she's done. And I believe I've got it here. And I'll just flag, I have a few concerns. One is that we have a 1-year jail time for willful and malicious behavior, but we have 2 years jail time on reckless behavior that may just lead to an injury. And so reckless is lesser intent than willful and malicious, but comes with a higher penalty. The other thing I'd point out is on the 1-year penalty, it's willful and malicious. So you had to do it on purpose and you had to do it with bad intent. On the 2-year jail penalty, we have part of it as intentional, but it says or reckless. And so I guess, my question, we sort of heard the sponsor and the advocate's view on this, but, we're talking about, again, 2 years jail for unleashing your dog and it injuring someone's service animal, or 2 years jail for intending to kill someone's service animal, and 1 year jail if I on purpose, I don't know, kicked your service animal off the sidewalk or something like that. So again, I just want the committee to understand the sort of set of questions we have before us. So I think we can move on from restitution because we've previously said that we're fine with this bit. On the interference, I think we've also previously said that we're okay with 1 year on willful and malicious interference. But I would again suggest we have this question about what to do with the 2 year penalty section. And so let me first propose we can carry on with we've already gotten agreement on the restitution and the 1 year with malice, I think, unless someone wants to stop me there and disagree. So I think I feel comfortable moving that part of the bill forward at the moment. If we would like to continue on the killing and intentional and reckless part, then I think we've got to continue the works, and we have till 1:30 before we've got a break. So I just want to lay it out, I think, where we sort of are in the conversation right now. And with that, I will open it for hands and what have you. Delegate Eric Hand.
Okay, that really was very helpful on your list. So actually, can we see that again? Because there's a couple comments. I think that I now understand Delegate Fisher and others had that was concerning them in the sort of lack of parity. Okay, what if, and sponsor can tell me what she thinks, what if for the recklessly, because that's reckless behavior, but not necessarily, there's no real, okay, so this is intentionally or recklessly. Okay. What if for the recklessly piece of this, there, we take it down to the lower criminal penalty?
Let me just ask, can I just follow up on this too? Is the intent to put a jail term on an accidental injury to a service dog?
Yeah, that's the part I think that
people are
feeling
uncomfortable. I don't think that's the intent. That is not
okay. Okay, so then we can move that portion. We can change recklessly. We can sort of, we'll have, sort of line item 1, intentionally do these things. Is this line item 2 is willfully and maliciously, and then line item 3 is recklessly, and we can have no jail time, but fine and the ability to get restitution. Does that make sense to everybody? Delegate Cardin, what do you think? Yeah? You're still muted.
You're proposing that we go fine only on reckless behavior?
I actually want to hear what Delegate Williams was going to propose, but I'm okay with that discussion. I just didn't know if you already had language that you were going to propose, Delegate Williams.
Yeah, well, like I said at the very beginning, I'm fine with adjusting and saying willful and malicious killing as opposed to intentional or reckless killing. And so that was what I was proposing at the very beginning of this, but I see where Delegate Erican is going. And I appreciate the chair putting up this chart here on the screen. I think this is extremely helpful for everyone. I think there is a section in the code, and I can't remember which section it is, but it has something to do, I guess, with the harm to another animal, where, back to Delegate Erican's point, there isn't any jail time. And then I think the fine might be like around $500 or something like that. If you wanted to take that approach, I think that would be consistent with other provisions in the code. So yeah.
Yeah, I would like that. I think that would work. And I think that might make others happy, but I know Delegate David still wants to jump in.
We actually have Delegate Cardin next and then Delegate Davis.
I'm good. I can think of all kinds of scenarios where intentional may not be what we're trying to accomplish, and where reckless may not be what we're trying to accomplish. But if we're going to take away jail time and just require fines for those per the proposal, and then change the language to malicious and malicious and willful, then I'll be okay. Like I said, I'm going to vote for it. I just think we want to clean it up a little bit. That's all.
Right.
Delegate Davis.
Thanks, you guys. I have had several talks with the sponsor of the bill, and on first blush, the whole thing bothered me, and I couldn't figure out why. And I think I'm getting to the point. If a dog bites or kills a human, do you know what the criminal law says on that? A human. All right. So I understand the purpose, and I'm fully support. I understand the sponsor's intention, and I agree with that. But hold on, let me finish.
Strict liability.
What? It is not strict liability. Get the hell out of here. I'm looking at it.
If a dog bites a person, it's strict liability.
It is not. I handle this for a living. No, it is not. And especially criminal charges for a dog bite. You got to prove that it's a dangerous dog, and you got to add without provocation. I mean, there are a lot of other standards that under 10-619 that are relevant when you try to prove criminal charges for a dog biting a human. So I just need you guys I need Delegate Moon's chart to include that too, because it shouldn't be that different. And I'm telling you right now, it's really different, and it's not strict liability.
Delegate Davis, can you just clarify your comments here? Is the issue you're raising with the animal to animal portions of the chart?
The issue is
This
jail
whole
time
an animal you control language?
Yes, definitely that. And it's also the severity. And it's also, if your dog bites another human, you have to file civil charges. So now we're putting the civil remedy into the dog bites an animal. I think they need to align somehow. We should not have stricter penalties for injuring an animal than injuring a human.
Delegate Fisher, did you have, I think your hand was next, and then we've got Grammar, and then Eric Hand. Oh, geez, all right.
Yeah, I wanted to say one, I'm sorry, I have another Zoom in the background. I want to say one, I appreciate the sponsor bringing this bill and all of her work on this for the community. And I think she's done a yeoman's job in all the concerns. I wanted to reiterate, and I've talked to the sponsor about this bill. It's not that I'm very supportive of on the higher standard when it's a humans act to the service dog being criminal, because I just think that from everything the advocates have said and just my own experiences, the cost and the, a service dog to someone in need of a service animal, it's more than property, right? So I am totally on that. I do have an issue with the animal to animal portion of this bill. And, I also brought this up to the bill sponsor. I'm not a parent, but I'm going to look at Delegate Cardin and Erican and Davis and Grammar and all you parents out there. We don't have criminal charges for when your child injures someone for the parent. And I feel like, as a parent, and again, I'll let the parents speak on that, you are more able to communicate with your child, talk to your child, and do things. And for those that sit in the family and the juvenile subcommittee, that's a whole host of things if we start charging criminally to parents on criminal actions of their children. And so I just would take that into account. I'm a new puppy a parent, foster parent myself. And so that's just the thing that really does make me uncomfortable. I'm totally fine with the person doing a malicious act to the service animal and being accountable to that. And they should be to the full extent of the law and pay that full restitution. So I lean on also, I'm fine with a different schism. Delegate Eric can propose maybe no jail time, and there's a restitution part. That might be something to consider. I don't know a lot about the civil part of dog bites. I don't practice that part as much. I would say though, you would maybe want to parallel it, but the service dog is a lot more expensive. So you want to make sure that they get more money and more restitution would be my comments. Mr. Chair, I don't know how you're doing on time. I hope it's something we can work out in this meeting, or if we need to, so I lean on you, Mr. Chair, on those things, but that's my perspective on this bill.
All right, let's try and rip through comments, and then figure out what we want to do. So we've got Grammer, Arakan, McComas, Conaway, and then we're going to circle. So let's try and keep this part brief, and then we'll circle back and try and figure out what.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that the portion about having bigger penalties for attacking dogs than attacking people is valid. I think we should look at that. But there's just something that still strikes me as odd with the way the criminal penalties are laid out, lining up intentionally or recklessly with willfully and maliciously. All of these actions seem to be something that we want to capture as a criminal offense, but something still strikes me as weird with the way this is all laid out. I don't have an immediate fix for that. I don't know if anybody else is sensing that, but I just wanted to point that out for myself. And again, like everybody else, I agree with the sentiment of the bill, but something is just weird here for me.
Delegate Arakan.
Okay, so back to our beautiful chart here, and I hear now, very helpful to hear from Delegate Davis and Fisher on this, and I totally agree. It does not make any sense for us to have a criminal penalty for something that is essentially could be totally an accident here between animals. So what if what we do is we pull out the animal to animal completely and put that into a under a civil penalty?
I will tell you, if we're heading in that direction, I think we pull that section. I don't know that we can in 10 minutes create a whole new civil action here.
Yeah, because the part that I think everyone's stuck on is the recklessly allow an animal you control to kill or injure a service animal. I think, unless we add in what Delegate Davis mentioned, where we say something like, as referenced in or matches the whatever code she said for human animal bites. I don't know if we can get there on that piece, because there's going to be a huge lack in parity that just does not make any sense legally. And I don't think any of us that have spoken so far would be comfortable with that. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm leaning towards maybe pulling out this recklessly allow animal piece. I mean, if you intentionally allow your animal, so like you have a dog that's trained to kill, and you intentionally, I guess that's different. Then your dog is then acting as an extension of you, like a weapon. So, that I think that piece is okay. But I think the recklessly allow animal to control to kill or injure a service animal. And what if we just did, instead of down here, this willfully and maliciously interfere, we just move interfere up to intentionally interfere with the service animal. And then we have this, and recklessly interfere with it. Do you know what I mean? Why are we separating them out like this? I guess it's because they have a lower penalty. Is that why? Okay. Well, golly, this is so much more complicated than it needs to be. Okay. I guess my final position is that maybe we just take out the recklessly allow animal piece right now, and we leave that in. It's already you can already take this to civil court. Can you not? Delegate Cardin, give me a nod, right? Yeah. This is already a civil situation. I think the bill will have an easier time being defended on the floor if we don't have that little piece in there. And I think it may move quicker on the Senate side if we don't have that recklessly piece in there, because especially in farm country, guys, my dogs get out all the time. I mean, it's just not the same life. So I would be concerned that, people could be looking at criminal charges for accidental things, which I think none of us are going to feel good about at the end of the day. So, all right, that's my final musing.
All right, Delegate McComas, Conaway, and then we were supposed to wrap, but I see Cardin's hand went back up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, I went to the criminal law section regarding abuse or neglect of an animal, and then attending dog and cockfights, and then aggravated cruelty to animals. And I'll just abuse or neglect of the animal. Basically, the sentence is imprisonment not exceeding 90 days or a fine not exceeding 1,000 or both. And this is where they would overdrive or overload an animal, deprive an animal of necessary sustenance, inflict unnecessary suffering or pain on an animal, cause or procure or authorize an act prohibited under those sections. Then the cockfights, a person who may not knowingly attend as a spectator. I'm wondering if you put in just a thought, should know or did know, or something that the dog was, might attack a service animal or had a history of attacking other dogs, so that the person knew or should have known. And then on the cockfights, it's 1 year or not exceeding a $2,500 fine or both. Then aggravated cruelty to animals, that one is guilty of a felony of aggravated cruelty, and on conviction is subject to imprisonment of not 3 years or a fine not exceeding 5,000 or both. And then let's see. So I guess what I'm kind of concerned about is that we've heard testimony that the service animal, if they have been attacked, could really mess them up, and they have a lot of trouble then continuing to help to help the person that they deal with. And that's a concern to me. And I think people should know their animals. And I know that what Delegate Davis has kind of interjected is a whole nother area, but I am kind of concerned that to attack the animal, maybe we should say attack the animal or interfere is not as big a deal as if blood's drawn, something like that. That's just a thought. But I mean, I think that it should go up. The 1 year, 1,000 for willfully and intentionally interfere with the service animal. Maybe that should be a little bit stiffer. And knowing and willfully and maliciously interfere, maybe. Because if the animal has problems, now I know you have court may order restitution, but you might want to say in consideration of the damages caused by the interference of the animal, so that it's real clear that you want that court may order restitution for both the kill as well as the interfering and hurting the animal. That makes the animal unable to continue being a service animal, or needs further training, significant training, to get that animal back together.
All right. Delegate Conaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to see side-by-side comparison of what we have on the screen versus what Delegate Davis was talking about.
So, Mr. Chair, so what Delegate Davis was mentioning, I looked at, it's a 10-619, and the penalty on that is a misdemeanor with the fine up to $2,500, just for everyone's, I guess, kind of point of information. I will say, and I hear what folks are saying with regards to the animal on animal thing. I mean, there are various laws, especially on the local level, about like leash laws and things like that people are to adhere to. And from my understanding, when most of these instances occur, it's a lot of times it's not a person saying, oh, I'm going to kill this service animal. It's usually, unfortunately, an animal that kills another service animal, which was the situation that happened in another state. And I would just add that there are multiple states across the country that have very similar laws like this. I hear what folks are saying with regards to the recklessness. I'm willing to adjust that section. I think the willfulness and maliciousness is important. And I think intentional harm to an animal is important, because that goes to, if you're intentionally harming something, that goes to your mental state versus the recklessness. Though I think the recklessness is important to the advocates, but I understand the concern that's being raised by members of the subcommittee.
So Delegate Williams, are
Yes.
you saying to move the reckless out and keep it the way it is other than that?
Well, I think it's not just simply a matter of moving the reckless out. I think it's a matter of moving the reckless out and as well as adjusting the penalties as well, because the willful.
Guys, can I just break in here for a second?
Go ahead.
I have to reground us here. We are running out of time. It is March 17th and we have maybe 30 minutes to clear a bill out of here. Otherwise, we're going to be back into another meeting. So so I did want to pull us back here just to figure out where we'd like to head with this. Again, I think we're all good on restitution. I think on willful and malicious interference, we appear to be all okay with there being 1 year on that. I'm sensing some discussion and resistance on two issues. One is recklessness, and two is the animal to animal component to this crime. So let me try and just get consensus on one other aspect. Let's not talk about animal to animal, and let's not talk about recklessness. Let's talk about, I on purpose killed your service animal. Do we want that to be willful and malicious or intentional? And do we want it to be 2 years or 1 year? I don't think we should make intentional and killing the same, but I guess if it's willful and malicious.
Isn't willful and intentional essentially the same thing?
Well, it's willful and malicious in the bottom and intentional or reckless at the top.
Yeah,
So
and the
they're
willful
not the
malicious is
same.
based on the feedback from the last subcommittee hearing. That's
Oh, I understand. We just have to pick which one we want. I think we could either say it's intentional throughout, or we could say it's wrongful and malicious.
I meant to ask about that last time, Mr. Chair. I didn't understand the difference between intentional and willful, and I didn't know if there was a different definition for willful.
I vote for intentional.
I prefer the same term, whatever it may be.
right. And I think that was Delegate Fisher's point as well. She wanted consistency throughout, which I am in agreement with.
Does anyone have an opinion on whether we go with
All right.
willful?
I
Willful and
said we go
malicious
willful.
sounds to me like a higher standard, to be clear, right?
Yeah,
Malicious.
I think we go with the willful maliciousness.
Is there value in
I
consulting
proposed at
counsel
the
here?
beginning.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
Counsel is
Counsel.
here.
I agree with Delegate Williams on the willful and maliciously, if you insert that instead of intentionally or recklessly for consistency. It seemed that the group liked that language from the horses statute, and then the malicious part would make it more egregious than intentional only.
So you would change,
So if Delegate Moon has, I don't know if he still has the reprint, but it would be on, if you all have it, it would be on page 2, line 3. Instead of a person may not intentionally or recklessly, we would just change that to a person may not willfully and maliciously kill or injure.
Right. And that's what I proposed at the beginning of the subcommittee meeting, and I'm okay with that.
so instead of intentionally or recklessly, we would now have willfully and maliciously.
Can I make a statement, Mr. Chair?
Please.
Okay, so I like that language, by the way. I think that language works. But I also think that because we're putting in malicious and willful, that allays concerns about whether if you shouldn't recklessly leave your gate open. But we have to remember what some of the advocates said. This even though we keep talking about animal on animal, this animal is an extension of this human being. It should be treated like a human being. So if we are criminalizing an assault on as a human being on a human being, it should be the same thing whether it's your animal or you doing it. So I don't have a problem personally, and I will vote for keeping all the language in terms of whether it's your dog or you doing it. And by the way, it's going to be a good lesson for people who don't follow leash laws, because it's very different for you to go and maliciously interfere with a service dog, which is basically assaulting a human being, as we've learned, versus your dogs tend to be aggressive with other dogs. Certain dogs tend to be aggressive with other dogs. And you have to be aware of that and conscious of that. And you should be reprimanded or penalized if you don't take into consideration, especially when this service dog, which is just a dog, is actually an extension of a human being. So I don't have a problem with keeping the animal stuff in there if we're changing it to willful, especially if we're changing it to willful and malicious.
And let me
By the
pause here,
way-
colleagues. I put on the screen how the table changes if we change the terminology to willful malicious on the top, so you could see if you agree with this this framing.
And just one last comment, which is, and I don't know if this is directly on point, but if I have my child intentionally go and shoplift or hurt somebody, or if I tell my child to get behind a blind person and make them trip, I believe can be charged for a criminal offense for that. So I think that was what the point that Delegate Fisher was trying to make. But if I am malicious and willful in using my child, I certainly could be criminally prosecuted. Why shouldn't I be with my dog as well?
I appreciate that point on Delegate Carden, but I think the standard I just saw Delegate Grammer like shake his head, but it would have to be willful and malicious with the child. That's what I'm saying. Like, but if your child just does something criminal, which is your dog attacking another dog, you're not criminally charged. Also, it's really hard to prove, and a lot of that's really not enforced, just for the record. But I
don't think that's the point of the bill. I think the point of the bill.
I get that, but I also don't know, as Mr. Chair does not like laws on our books that we're not enforcing and that are just sitting there. So I think it's just something to consider as a policy question. And yeah, I'll stop there.
Okay.
All right.
I just nodded my head.
Conway and Erican have hands up. Guys, we're running out of time.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chair. So Delegate Carden, this dog is not really another dog. It's sort of like a service dog or law enforcement dog, but at a little bit lower standard. Would you say that's a way that you could look at this situation?
I would look at it as an extension of the person, Delegate Conway. It's
right, which would make it not like a regular dog, but
correct. It's not a regular dog. There's an extensive training that the dog has to undergo before they can even before they even go to their owner, in order to be considered a service animal. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Delegate Erican, last thought.
I think I like what we've come to for now, and we can, if we need to make tweaks, we can do it. We can always come back next year, because part of me even wonders, like, some of this may actually be a hate crime. So I think there's an opportunity for another bill next year for us to sort of tweak it again. But I think what we have here, I think works.
All right. So let's pull back then. So the proposal on the table is to take the reprint, but change all of the standard to willful and malicious killing. Okay.
Move favorable.
Is there a motion on that amendment that we just described?
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion.
Delegate Moon, can I ask a clarification?
Yes.
In your last chart that you pulled up, it looks like you took out the language about for interference.
Yeah, I was just messing around on my.
Okay,
sorry.
so we're going to keep the reprint the way it is.
Yeah, let's just change everything to willful and malicious and see if we can roll it like that.
Thank you.
That was a duplicative section. That's why you removed it. Is that correct?
Well, no, he actually showed there's a provision in the bill about that has already had willful and malicious. It said a person may not willfully and maliciously interfere with the use of a service animal or allow an animal that the person owns to interfere with. And Delegate Moon had removed that dog versus dog.
Yeah, I think I improperly put that in the first instance. I was trying to clone the bill text over to that chart. But yeah, to be clear, I think if we just make all of the terminology consistently willful and malicious, it ought to match what we're talking about. And let me just let me put it back on screen just so we're 100% all on the same page about what we're doing here. We're gonna knock this right here and change it, right?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Great. Okay, one more time from the top. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor of the bill with that amendment, raise your hand, or adopting that amendment, raise your hand. All right, any opposed? One. All right, now we are on the bill as amended. Is there a motion?
Move favorable.
Second.
All right, all in favor of the bill with that amendment, raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, we did it. All right, well, thank you, folks. I guess we got a few minutes before 1:30. I will see you at full committee. Thank you, everybody. Sorry
What
this
time
took
is
so
full
long.
committee? What time is full committee?
Full committee's not until 3, I don't think.